Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing wonderful. Welcome to the Early Career Podcast. This is Priyanka Mahankali, your host and friend. And today we're going to talk about the future of work in tech. You know, I always like to keep this podcast real. I want to make it intentional. I want to make sure that we're coming up with content that is actionable for you. And so for this one, I was really thinking through what can I tell you about how to prepare you for 2026 and beyond, especially as we're seeing changes and advances in AI and agentic AI, businesses rethinking their organizational structure, coming up with new ways to do things. And so I think we're in that transformational time where every business is going to fundamentally rethink how they can become almost more leaner and how they can use as little human resource as possible to do as much work as possible. And I know that can be triggering for a lot of us because, we as human beings, we will feel like our survival is threatened because, we'll be out of a job and, all of those things. And that's what I'm here to prepare you for by helping you with the right skills, because fear is not really going to help us a lot here, right? And so instead of being afraid, instead of thinking about how do we resist this change, I want to help you become more adaptive. I want you to embrace this change. I want you to first understand what this change is, why it's coming about right now, what's happening really in the industry, and actually provide you with some actionable skills that I myself am learning right now to kind of take myself forward. And this is for the early career, but this is really for everybody. Everybody is rethinking, even people who are employed, not just people who got laid off, but people who are employed too are really rethinking how they need to contribute to companies now, today, in their roles, more faster, more efficiently, because now one person is essentially expected to do the job of what 2-3 people would do before, because the expectation is that you need to use AI tools as much as possible to do your job faster, quicker, more efficiently, maybe better in some cases than a human being would do in a short amount of time, in the shortest amount of time as possible, with the same level of quality that can be produced. So yeah, with all that being said, it can be a very difficult time for some of you. I understand that if you're going through a layoff right now, if you're looking for a job right now, it can be very triggering, it can be very challenging. But I want to tell you that you're not alone. Everyone's in the same boat with you, myself included. There's nobody excluded from this right now. And it's ironic because there was a time where technology was kind of taking over a lot of the jobs of the blue-collar workers. I hate that name, but I'm just gonna use it for ease, I guess. So a lot of the blue-collar jobs were kind of threatened because technology was taking over some of that, and also that technology or tech jobs were more high-paying than the blue-collar jobs. So everyone wanted to kind of be in tech, and nobody wanted to be in the blue-collar jobs, right? Because of lesser pay or so many other reasons. But now, if you look at it generically, there's going to be like a huge shrink in the demand for white-collar jobs, which is, tech falls under white-collar, high-paying jobs, because technology is going to actually shrink some of the need or demand for human resources within the tech sector, white-collar tech sector segment. So, and this is one of those rare times where the blue-collar jobs are not really going away, or they're kind of feel more important now. You can't take over being a teacher, or you can't take over being a plumber or a carpenter, or something that requires physical labor, human physical labor, right? You just can't, some of it can't just be taken away, right? But in a lot of cases in tech, you can, if you look at any repetitive task, then you can actually take away a repetitive, boring task and make AI actually do it. So for those of you who are in the work sector, working right now, I really want you to think about, if you are doing a task, is that repetitive? Is that boring? Is that mundane? And when I say boring, I mean boring in the sense of it being mostly repetitive. Can that task be boxed and defined very easily? Because if it can be, then most likely that is going to be going away or going to be replaced by AI. And so you want to be able to make sure that you find a way to accelerate what you can do for that task by using AI as much as possible. So you use AI to take that repetitive task, identify that task, and find AI tools that you can use to automate that process, and actually have that as show that to your manager, show that to your business, say, look, I've identified this task that can actually be done by AI, right? That AI can actually do it. So, and then that's how you can actually add value to your business, to your teams, by showing how you are actually embracing AI. You're not resisting it, but you're actually embracing and adapting your work to have AI be an assister or a friend in this new world, because that's what companies are really looking for. If you're wondering, how do I make myself productive? How do I make myself unique? How do I differentiate myself? It's really about being able to use AI in the best way possible in your work to optimize and do the job as quicker, faster, more easily as possible, right? So you can do more work in a short amount of time. That's what human beings have been doing since the evolution of time, right? Like if you look at the Stone Age, we started off by hunting and we made tools. First, we didn't have tools and we had to hunt with our hands, and it was difficult. And then we decided, oh, maybe if we make this kind of a tool, it'll make this faster or better or easier. So we invented tools and so on and so forth. And over time, we try to find easy ways to do things. So that's just natural human evolution for us to want to find easier ways to do things so that we can do less and we can rely on other entities to do more things for us. And so tools didn't certainly threaten us. We then created societies and civilizations. So generally speaking, we created industries to produce foods faster. Then we created factories to automate things and to produce, again, food and other resources. So we always found ways to make our journey on this earth faster or easier or better. And this is no different, right? This is just one of those key moments in our lifetimes that we are seeing where technology is really going to fundamentally change our behavior, how we are going to operate, how we're going to behave. If you think about it, all the UI, right? Like before we had web interfaces and UIs. So for example, in the next few years, it's predicted that all of the UI is going to be condensed into a chat interface, and you're not going to need web UIs anymore, because you can just use a chat interface and then get whatever you want as part of the interface. So a lot of the UI roles might go away, some of which have already gone away because there's a lot of automation in that space. So just think about what you do in your role and what's going to actually go away, so that you can embrace the change and actually be productive right now, and figure out how you can contribute in 2026 and beyond. So point number one, don't resist the change, embrace it and adapt to it, because the ones that are going to adapt to it as fast as possible are going to be part of the AI race or game, whatever you want to call it. And those who are going to resist it and are going to say, oh, no, I'm only going to do this thing and I'm only competent at this thing, they're going to be left behind. And I can't tell you how many people I've talked to in the recent time that have told me, oh, my role is this, I only like doing this, or I only like doing that, so I don't want to apply to these roles. Because my recommendation is that try to see how you can blend your existing role to fit some need of AI. So basically, if you are in data engineering or if you're in data analytics, figure out how you can do data analytics better with AI. Instead of just saying, I just want to do the data analytics side. And I've seen so many people say that, and I can't force you, right? I can only tell you. But that attitude is, I'm just giving an example of that attitude that's going to really hurt you. And I don't want it to hurt you. And that's why I'm telling you now that you need to find ways in every role to infuse AI as part of your role. If you're in cybersecurity, then figure out how AI can actually automate things for you faster. Maybe you can perform some proactive tasks when it comes to protecting certain workloads and things like that, right? So figure out how you can infuse AI into your role. And if you think that the need for a human being is going to go completely away, I don't fully agree with that right now, because I'll give you a quick example. So I was creating a document yesterday for a proposal for something related to AI governance. And I asked AI so there's a AWS has a really nice AI tool called AWS Quick Suite, which actually allows you to upload a bunch of documents, and you can actually instruct it what kind of research you want to do. And it's actually going to do some in-depth analysis for you and do some research, and then it's going to take like 5, 10, 15 minutes. So it's actually doing some real research and then spitting out whatever you need. And so yesterday I was creating a document with the help of Quick Suite. And yes, now you don't have to handwrite documents, spend weeks, right? You can just use AI and help it create a starting point for you to create a document, proposal, whatever it is, and then kind of use that to reduce how much time and effort you need to take to write the document. So I wrote it, or I had Quick Suite write it for me. I gave it some pointers, and I'm at version 5. So I've asked it to make 5 different huge changes, and I'm still not happy with the document. So I still have to, and it's nothing that AI is doing wrong. It's just that I want the document to read in a certain way. And because you have to instruct it to either be authoritative in a certain way, or maybe present it either like a sales pitch, or like an ask, or like a general market research. Like, what do you want to position the document as, right? You have to instruct it, because that's how it's going to position it for you. And even the document, the way it has to flow, you have to tell it how you want it to flow and what kind of things you want it to have. And that judgment of what you want it to have and how it should flow and what the document should read like in general, that is your power. That is something only human beings, at least right now, only human beings can do it, right? So no, I don't think human beings are replaceable in that context. But you see what I did? I used AI in my job to find a way to make my job easier, my overall job easier, so that when I go to my manager tomorrow and request them to read the document and request them for this proposal to move along, they can give me feedback on the document, and I'll take that back again to Quick Suite and I'll try to update the document. But you see, I made my own job easier by embracing AI. So that's what I would tell you, all of you, if you're a student. Even if you're a student, try to find a way to figure out, let's say you're doing coding, right? Of course, as a student, you need to know how to code. So I wouldn't say that just have AI write code for you. But what you need to do is, as a student, be honest, be sincere, try to really learn how code is written, because fundamentals of code are always important. Because how are you going to debug code from AI? Excuse me. So I always have the habit of sneezing whenever I put makeup on. It's been a tradition now for over so many years. So if I don't sneeze in any one of the podcasts, maybe that's something odd. So anyway, so what I was saying was make it part of your daily routine and find ways to embed AI even in your code. So write code first, and then maybe you can ask AI to validate it to see if it was right, if it was wrong, or if it can give you some pointers for it to be better in some way, shape, or form, right? So that's what you need to do. But as a student, please try to learn, be sincere, try to learn the concept first, because otherwise your professors are going to be mad at me. I'm just kidding. In school, when you're an undergrad, when you're in your master's, it's very important to learn the fundamentals, because then that's going to give you that foundation so that when you actually use AI, you know if it's hallucinating, if it's producing the right output. Because right now it's an assist. It's AI is assisting you to do something, right? So we don't really know if it's hallucinating, if there's any bias. There could be a lot of different things that it's outputting, and it may be wrong. So how do you know that something's wrong, right? If you don't know how to write code, and if you don't know how to understand code. So that's my suggestion, that try to use AI, but also use your brain as much as you can, as and when needed, and use AI as the sort of secondary brain, if you will. Yeah. Specifically talking about early career and some of the expectations in the market right now. So fortunately or unfortunately, the market is changing, and because of that, when I started my early career journey, I had a lot of time to learn and grasp and create impact. And that was a time where time was still slower than it is now. Like now, everything needs to happen fast, and outputs need to be fast, and revenue needs to be fast, and everything has to be fast. So with that, when you're in your early career, when you start your first job, everyone's going to expect outputs to be very fast. Even if you're not in your first job, even now for me in my job, everything has to be fast. Revenues have to be monthly or quarterly, as opposed to thinking of it in terms of years, right? So because of that, there's going to be a lot of expectations from you from day one, right? You can't wait for like 6 months to then create an impact. You have to make impact from day one. And so that's one thing. Then the second thing is some of the roles. I wanted to talk about the roles that are going to actually be high impact roles in tech. So that's AI, ML engineers, data engineers, cybersecurity experts, solution architects, so like cloud architects, and applied AI roles. So these are the roles that I've identified to be very impactful in 2026 and beyond. Again, I don't know what it is going to look like in the next few years. So this is just my prediction. Nobody really knows what it's going to look like, but based on what is required today, I'm giving you this information. Then the next thing is, as I mentioned earlier, now more than ever, you can't just rely on your IQ, because guess what? AI is able to replace some of your IQ, right? So what you need to have is strong judgment, strong communication skills, and empathy to be able to kind of navigate the world around you. And these are things that some people have, some people don't have, and some people think that they don't need to have. But now it's a non-negotiable. You can't not have high EQ and high judgment, and also strong understanding of the business. So you can't just, if you're in a tech role, for example, if you're a software developer, over time, some of the developers are going to be laid off based on who's understanding and who's making the impact, not just from a code perspective, but also from a judgment perspective and from a business perspective. Like, are you thinking about how is this code impacting a certain feature that is impacting maybe the ROI of the company? How is this adding value? You really have to think about things beyond just the technical aspect of it. And that's what's really going to differentiate you from other software developers in this space, right? And this is just an example of any role, and I'm generalizing this here, for really any role, you need to have strong judgment, strong communication, and strong empathy. And I'll repeat that again and again and again, because it's really that important. Like, if you think about my document that I was writing, I needed to have strong judgment because I know what the document needs to have, because I have a certain vision in mind. That's strong judgment, because anyone can generate a document right now. So it's not about who's generating a document. It's about who's generating the right document using AI as an assistant. That's the key. So some of the other high judgment roles are roles like product managers and sales roles, where strong empathy is required, relationship building skills are required, roles that are a combination of business and tech, hybrids. So any of those product strategy kind of roles are also something that is going to be in demand, continues to be in demand, because you can't really replace, again, strong judgment. And product roles require you to have that vision for the product that only a human being can have, at least right now, right? So it's safe to say that some of the roles that are repetitive, some roles that can be done faster than ever before are going to go away. And so overall, the market is shrinking and it's getting leaner. Companies are getting leaner. So there's going to be like a supply-demand issue where there's going to be less demand and more supply. And so you're going to have to really build your leverage in the market to stand out from everybody else, to then get hired. And so that's why just having your degree or just having your certifications is just table stakes. You need to have more than that. If you have, especially, and now we're talking about resume, if you have any GitLab projects, or if you have any case studies or any documents, anything like that can help you, please have it in your resume. And if you're in the workforce right now, please work on creating a strong LinkedIn presence, for example. You can write blogs about what you feel about a certain technology that you're working on. Maybe you're experimenting on something, so have that documented somewhere. So people want to see proof now of what you've done, and especially not just what you've done, because then it becomes a task, which companies are going to think, can we use AI to automate this task, right? So you have to position yourself not from what did I do, but how did I do it and why did I do it, right? Because that shows your judgment and your thinking and strong depth of thinking in whatever you're trying to say. So in your resumes, for example, you don't want to just say, I am an SDE, or this is my SDE experience. You want to say, I did so and so, I built this project using AI. That's what you want to say, because that's what's going to show that you are an impact-driven person. You care about results, you care about outcomes. I've seen so many resumes where the information is so tactical. It can't be tactical. You have to think of it, you have to take a step back and think of it from a bird's eye view. Why should a business care that I used Python to do something? Why should they care about that, right? They will care if you tell them how you used Python to do something that then impacted that company in a certain way and create some measurable outcomes, like impacted by 2x cost efficiency, or increased something by 60%, or something that then adds value to the company, so that the company that's trying to hire you understands that you have that mindset, and that will reflect in your resume. So you need to make sure that you are outcome-driven in your resume, not task-focused. And guess what? Now, having your own personal brand, marketing yourself, having strong networks, more important than ever, because now it's all about what impact you can create and who has seen your impact in the past, and that comes from strong networks. If you know people who've seen your work before, and they can easily refer you to other companies. But if you're just applying online, it doesn't really work that much anymore, to be honest with you. It very rarely works. I wouldn't say it doesn't work, but online applications of resumes rarely work because most people, at least smart people, will already have connections with those companies, with people, or they're maybe forming connections with the hiring managers, with the recruiters, trying to have conversations, trying to create a bond. So who do you think the recruiter is going to pick for an interview, you or someone who has an existing bond with them, right? So that's how it works. You have to work on creating strong connections. So I would say that overall, from a skills perspective, become T-shaped. T, the letter T, meaning that you are deep in one skill, right? But you are also broad in a lot of different areas, right? So that's what you call T-shaped. So deep in one and broad in all. So jack of all trades and master of, well, one in this case. And it can mean that you are deep in, let's say, data engineering, but you're broad in storytelling and product and strategy. And these are all things you can learn. You can do a course and you can learn. It's not like it's something that you need to have some 10 years experience to know. Yeah, like for some roles you need to have that level of experience, but you need to start somewhere, right? Like, so don't be afraid to start somewhere and then show that in your resume and show that in your interview that, look, this is what I want to do. This is what I've started. I want to be here. So can you help me out? Like, be honest sometimes. It's just, sometimes interviewers tell me that, hey Priyanka, you don't have previous product management experience. So then I'd ask them, okay, so then how do I become product manager, right? Just ask them. And then they'll tell you and when they start telling you, they'll realize that, yeah, well, you have to start somewhere, right? So sometimes just being honest and open and asking the right questions can take you far. And so in the first 3 to 5 years of your career, I would say that be very careful in choosing the right roles that will really accelerate you, will really create a compounding effect for your career. The reason I created this podcast was because I know how hard it is to actually know what to do when you're in your early career, the first 5 years. And the reason why I'm doing this is because if you don't have the first 5 years of your career strong, if you don't have a strong first 5 years, then you're actually, I wouldn't say you're setting yourself up for failure, but it takes you a lot longer to become successful in what you want to do and to become visible and to become, to go into, a leadership role maybe in the future, right? But if your first 5 years are solid, if you've done all the right things or most of the right things, then you're really setting yourself up for the next 10, 15 years to be really, really impactful. And that's why I created this podcast, and that's why I am very focused on helping people, especially in their early career, to create, to make the right decisions, choose the right kind of roles, be the right kind of person, to create that compounding effect. Because every year you make these decisions in different roles and what you want to do, and over time it creates a compounding effect, because when you look back, you're like, wow, okay, I have all these things now, right? So some tips here: when you are picking roles, make sure that the hiring manager is someone that you can really work with, that you resonate with, because otherwise you can't really grow. I can never work with a bad manager who's a micromanager. I need a manager who understands me, who understands the way I work, who understands my mind, how I work, what my vision, thought process looks like. That's very important. It's like a relationship. So choose the right managers, because they're the ones who are going to create growth for you, exponential growth in some cases for you. Also, you want to make sure that you choose roles that are challenging for you, that will create the right skills that are going to be needed in the next couple of years. Don't choose roles that are just good for now. So when you're choosing something, think of it from a long-term perspective. Don't just think of it for now. Of course, this is only for people who already have an existing job. Of course, if you don't have a job, you want to take what you get, But even in that case, then you want to still keep looking for something that actually is meaningful. So don't forget your long-term vision is what I'm saying. And lastly, you want to don't think about titles of jobs more than you want to think about exposure and how. I always ask this to interviewers, does the work or is this role, how close is this role to the top management in the sense of how many levels are there and how is the work that I'm going to do have an impact, going to have a direct impact on the decisions that are being made at the top level for the business at whole. Because I really want to make decisions at my role that are directly going to be influencing the top line or the leadership to then make company-wide decisions based on that, right? Because I feel confident that I can make good decisions or I can help them make good decisions. So that's one of my criteria. And so for me, I don't mind being a title that doesn't sound sexy, but is just extremely influential and I know is going to create or give me the understanding of scale, give me a higher scope to work with. Because if you're working with a very small scope as well over time, then your scope just remains there. You're not able to be broad. So I want to broaden my scope, and that's why for me it's important to, especially if you're trying to go into more leadership business roles in the future, then you want to make sure your scope of the role broadens over time. But if you want to go technical, then you should go deep, not necessarily broad in a lot of cases. So for you early career folks, remember, don't stay tactical for too long. When you start off in a company, don't just focus on tasks, focus on actions, focus on results, focus on how does this project going to help make the company money? How is it going to generate ROI, which is called return on investment, meaning that how is the company going to generate a profit from this? How is it going to reduce cost? How is it going to increase performance? Think about, don't just think about you being inside a system, which is the company. Think of you being, look at the company as a box and you are sitting outside the box, right? Because in the end, this is a company, right? There is an investment and then there is a profit that needs to be generated. So there is an input and there has to be an output. If there is only input, meaning that if the company is only investing and investing and investing and there is no output, meaning that the company is not generating profit, what are they going to put back into the input, right? So the company falls apart. Think of it like that. Think of it like a startup or think of it like you are an entrepreneur. I always think of myself as an entrepreneur. Like I am a company and I'm the founder of this company and now I've hired 10 people. So when you hire people, that people are a cost, right? People are not profit, people are a cost to the company. So because you are paying people to do a job that hopefully results in the company being profitable later on, right? So now you are thinking of the company as an external entity or like just a system where the company is investing in you and is hoping that it's going to create some profit. So you need to be very, very laser focused on figuring out what kind of projects you want to work on. And this is what we call as smart work, right? You don't just work hard, work smart. And especially now with AI, nobody is going to value hard work anymore because it's like, well, if AI can do that, why are you working this hard, right? So don't just be in the mindset of, I need to work hard, then I'll get this job. I need to work hard, then I'll get promoted. No, you have to work smart. But what I mean by working smart is when you're working on something or you're thinking about working on something, find projects that are going to be scalable, that are going to have a wide impact, that are going to actually influence how the company is going to make a decision or do business or earn trust with customers or increase profits for the customers. So think of everything from a market perspective. And I'll have another episode about what are things you need to think about when you think about this deeply, like doing market analysis and understanding what the gap is in the market and how do you fit your project as a solution to solve for that gap, right? So all of those things, I will give another talk where we will talk about that in detail. But for now, just understand that even though you are just maybe one small drop of the entire ocean, don't feel like you are the drop, right? Because you might be in a big company maybe, but don't feel like you're just one drop. Think you're one massive drop, right? Because you have to think that about yourself. You have to think that you are really important. And more than important, think that you are going to rely on your strong judgment and you're going to rely on your innovative mind and come up with something that truly changes the world, right? If you want to think in that sense. Inspire yourself. I try to find inspiration every day. I inspire myself and I think, oh my God, okay, I need to change the world today. And then I wake up the next day and I think, okay, I need to change the world today. I haven't changed the world enough yesterday. So I know this sounds dramatic, but it's really how I think, and it's how I drive myself to push myself when I'm writing a proposal for AWS or when I'm trying to do something. Even in the past, when I created a proposal for something related in aviation, I really pushed myself to think big and think as big as possible. And a lot of people said, oh, this is a regular industry, you won't be able to crack it, or customers won't buy it, customers won't want it. And guess what? I was so consistent and I was so smart about getting the right customers in the room and engaging with the right people, salespeople, that it ended up becoming a thing where customers were asking me for it. Like, hey, I know you talked about this. Can we talk about this some more? Can we discuss this some more? I want to really understand how we can make this a reality, right? So you got to be consistent, but you also got to be smart about how you position yourself. And so I just want to conclude by saying that don't compete with AI. Make it your friend, make it an assistant. Actually, try to use AI as much as possible to do your job. If you have a resume, ask it, run it through AI, run it through ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, or whatever you're using, and ask it, how can my resume be better? I'm not getting any job. How do I make it better? Use it as much as possible. Take the pointers. And ChatGPT, for example, is not just like a one-off thing. You can continue to have conversations with it. So you need to know what are the right prompts, right? Prompt is like the message you're typing to it. So you need to know what are the right prompts, what are the instructions you need to give it. Because, for example, my mom was like, oh, I asked ChatGPT and then it told me this. So then I was like, okay, so then did you ask it to refine it better then? And she was like, no, I didn't. And so I was like, no, then you have to tell it. You can't just stop with asking one time and then getting an answer and then that's it. You can keep refining, asking it better, asking to make it more structured or make it more strategic or make it more product manager-like. Whatever you want, you need to like tell it, instruct it that, hey, I want this out of you. Or I want you to act like a recruiter. So I want you to be a recruiter and now review my resume as though you were a recruiter. So that's something you can look at to really extract as much you can out of something like ChatGPT or Gemini, whatever that is, right? So make use of it. Even if you're coding, make use of there are so many code assistant tools. Make use of it. For example, AWS came up with one called Hero. There are so many others as well. But yeah, make use of that and see how you can actually do your job faster. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts, if you have any better information than what I shared, please let me know. I'd love to chat with you and learn more about your perspective, because you see, this is a growing, evolving space. So I wouldn't say that I know better than someone else. It's just that from what I've learned and what I'm observing my space, I've just shared with you. But hopefully this is a actionable, action-oriented episode for you that you can take away and trust your instinct, trust your judgment, create strong instincts. One of the ways you can create strong instincts is by, for example, watch Shark Tank. I always watch Shark Tank. Like, I'm constantly watching Shark Tank because whenever I'm trying to write some proposal, I want to understand what an investor would ask me, right? And they ask you things like unit economics, what is your differentiation, what is your moat? All of those things are business terms that they teach you in business school. But guess what? Sometimes people on Shark Tank, they have no education and they built $1 million business. So I'm not saying education is nothing, but there are always edge cases and you can be an edge case, right? So stay safe, take care, have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you again next week. Bye.